For centuries, the ancient Egyptian civilization has fascinated the world. Towering pyramids, dazzling treasures, and the reign of godlike pharaohs. But what if the truth behind their power wasn't just in the riches they amassed or the armies they commanded? Take Pharaoh Akhenaten, for example. He ruled in a time of dramatic change. In an unprecedented act, he abandoned Egypt's traditional gods in favor of one, Aten, the sun disk. But this was no peaceful spiritual awakening. This was a rebellion that would fracture the very core of Egypt's sacred practices. But Akhenaten's obsession with a single god wasn't the only shocking part of his reign. What he sought to hide in the shadows of his palace were the darker rituals that would make even the bravest of men shudder. Hidden ceremonies designed to tap into forbidden power. And these rituals, they weren't just a matter of faith, they were about control. Deep within the tombs of the pharaohs, a forbidden truth was kept locked away. In these crypts, embalming was just the beginning of their journey to the afterlife. Pharaohs had their bodies preserved to ensure their immortality, but the rituals didn't stop there. What many don't realize is that the embalming process was steeped in rituals that some would call necromantic. It was said that when a pharaoh died, it wasn't just their body that was laid to rest in the tomb. Servants, warriors, and even family members were often sacrificed, buried alive in the very tombs meant to protect the ruler's soul. These acts of ritual sacrifice ensured that the pharaoh would have loyal servants in the afterlife, forever guarding the passage to immortality. This, however, wasn't just about power in the afterlife. The pharaohs themselves believed that their spiritual control extended far beyond death. Curses were carved into the very walls of tombs, warning grave robbers and anyone who dared to disturb their resting place. The curse of the pharaoh was not just myth, it was an ancient weapon, said to bring misfortune, madness, and death to those who sought to steal their secrets. But the true horror came when modern-day archaeologists uncovered what the pharaohs had tried so desperately to keep hidden. In the depths of the Valley of the Kings, a new tomb was found, one that had never been touched. And inside, a hidden chamber, its walls lined with strange symbols, its air thick with an ancient and malevolent presence. What the pharaohs truly sought was not just an eternal reign over Egypt, but dominion over the living and the dead. Through their dark rituals, they attempted to bridge the gap between life and the afterlife. But in the end, the price of such power was more than they could ever have imagined. The pharaohs believed they could transcend death itself, but the truth, they never left. Their shadows still linger and their secrets are still waiting to be uncovered. The darkest truths of Egypt have not been fully revealed, not yet. What do you think the pharaohs were hiding? What other secrets lie buried beneath Egypt's sands? Subscribe and join us on this journey to uncover the mysteries that still haunt the land of the ancient kings.